Welcome to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
me, Rob. Let's break down this show because we're doing a little bit of a breakdown.
Oh, yes, it is time. The year is over. It is time to start reviewing the players that we had for this last season that just passed here. And let's be honest here, it wasn't a great season, so this is probably not going to end very well for anyone here on this list, except maybe a couple of bright spots. But that's about all we can expect here. So, yeah, so today, guys, we're going to go over our list of the skill players, the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends. Tomorrow, we're going to start breaking down the linemen, both on offense and defense, barring any kind of big news or anything breaking, obviously, there in the next 24 hours. So let's get right into it. Now, we did skip some players here. There was a couple of things we didn't do. We skipped Daniel Jones because he's gone. He's no longer with us. It's been a while now. We don't need to rehash that topic. We know that one already. That horse has been dead and beaten dead multiple times at this point. So we're done there. We also did not go over anybody who didn't get any snaps in the season either. So they were hurt all year, didn't play all year, sat on the practice squad, never got into a regular season game. We're not talking about them. There's a couple of guys that barely made that cut. But in general, if they were on the field at some point in 2024, we're going to go over them. So we got to start, of course, with the quarterbacks, guys. So Drew Lock ends the season as our starting quarterback there. I was hoping I wouldn't say that phrase ever in my life, but I did. Drew Lock, 8 games, 216 to 341 with a 63.4 completion percentage, 1,071 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 8 carries, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Had a 53.6 PFF grade, 48.2 for passing, 90.7 for rushing. Let me repeat that again. 48.2 PFF grade for passing. I just want to hear for all y'all in the back because I keep hearing people, oh, maybe we should just re-sign Drew Lock. 48.2 PFF grade for passing. Now, I know PFF ain't everything. I'm not trying to say it is. But let's look at the stat of 6 touchdowns when 4 of them were against the Colts. 4 of the passing touchdowns were against the Colts. In every game, we didn't play the Colts. 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Because I don't think he had an interception that game, if I remember correctly. That's bad. That is bad, guys. So for all y'all go, oh, might as well just keep Drew Lock. Stop. Lose critical thinking skills. This is not a good idea. Now, if you wanted to bring him as a backup again, whatever, you can do worse. But I don't like it for this year. You know, he's going to be a free agent. I don't think he wants to stay with us. Let's be very frank there. It didn't go well for him. But why would we want him? We need 2 quarterbacks this year to be signed or drafted. We need a solid veteran, and we need a young one we can build the franchise around. Obviously, one would be a free agent, one would hopefully be a draft pick.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Just check that no interceptions in the Colts game. So
yeah. So 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in every game. He didn't play the Colts. That's really bad. So yeah, I don't want to keep Drew Lock. I'm good moving on. Appreciate the time he put in. Appreciate the effort he put in. We talk trash, but let's be honest, these players all try their butts off. I have no doubt that he'll probably look much better somewhere else next year because that's just the way what happens when people leave the Giants.
Usually,
of course. So, but it just didn't work out for whatever reason, whether it's coaching, mix of personnel, just did not work out. He looked worse than he looked in Seattle. He looked worse than he looked in Denver. He just did not look like even like an NFL quarterback at this point. And
it's about his rookie year in Denver. It was yeah.
His rookie year in Denver was better, I thought.
Not much.
Not much, no, but better. Better than 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, that's for damn sure. And a 48.2 passer rating. That's bad. Yeah. We're moving on. One more quarterback we got to talk about. Because we actually did skip one because Tim Boyle doesn't count. Sorry.
Yeah.
And that's Tommy DeVito. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy DeVito. We got to talk about him. And listen, they've already said Tommy DeVito is going to be back next year. So let me just end the drama there. Right off the bat. He will be a Giant, at least in training camp. 3 games in the season, 31 of 44, 59.1 completion percentage, 257 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 8 carries, 32 yards, a 51.3 PFF grade overall, 52.5 for passing, 53.5 for rushing. And I think we had an answer to a question we had this year. You know, Rob and I were both saying once we got rid of Daniel Jones, throw Tommy DeVito in there, see what he is, find out if we have a quarterback, not of the future, because I don't think anybody was smoking enough crack to think that he's going to be a starting quarterback in this league.
There were some that out there.
Not on this show, at least.
Yeah.
Someone smokes more crack than us.
Yeah.
But, you know, we thought, okay, let's see if he can be an actual backup in this league, maybe. And based on what we saw this year, I would say the answer is probably no. And I think where he's been at the last couple of years is probably the best spot for him. A young quarterback that you see if he can further develop as you have him on your roster. You pop him on the practice squad. You make him the third QB that you keep an active game day, whatever the case may be. That's the role for him. You know, yeah. And it's not necessarily the ceiling. Maybe with more time, he can develop into a backup. But he's not there right now. You know, and I know he's a great story the prior year in 23. You know, I know a lot of people are you know, decent fans of him because of the whole family and the hand signals and all this kind of stuff there. Like it was a story last year.
And his agent, it always looks like a character.
But it's just not there, guys. The talent is not there right now. And it's just, we got to move past this. I think that Tommy DeVito is a guy that, again, he'll be in camp. They've already said they plan on having him here next year. So he'll be there in camp. I would not be shocked if he either doesn't make it out of camp or ends up on the practice squad instead of being saved on the active roster, because that was a deliberate move they did this year to save him for the active roster just so the team wouldn't take him. I don't think the Giants are as heartbroken if no one takes him. My personal opinion there. I could be wrong. But that's what I think is going on. Did we lose you, Rob? I think we did lose Rob here. So let's get into... Let's change up the screen here first. We get Rob back later on. I'm sure he'll disappear momentarily on us here. Let's talk about the running backs now. So first up, we got the rookie phenom himself, Tyrone Tracy Jr., who is probably the best value pick for the Giants in this draft. And don't get me wrong, this was a great draft class. But there's something different about Tracy specifically. A guy that come off a 5th-round draft pick. A guy to give you, you know, over 1,000 yards, over 1,100 yards, total yards. As a rookie, as a 5th-round draft pick. Guys, that's a win. That is a win all damn day long. You're lucky to get that out of you know, much earlier pick. You get a day 1, day 2 pick that gives you that. You still think it's a slam dunk. So, yeah, this is pretty damn good to go ahead and get that kind of return of a 5th-round pick. 17 games overall, 192 yards, 839 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns and 2 fumbles, 38 catches, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 receiving fumbles as well. He had a 58.4 PFF grade, not very good, and a lot of that was receiving. His receiving PFF grade was a 40.6. His rushing, though, 69.6. Ironic for a guy who was a former wide receiver to have such a bad record as a receiving running back now, just a couple years later after playing that position, the receiver position, in college. Little crazy there. Did have 3 kick returns also for 61 yards, so I should mention that as well. Did do a little bit in special teams there. But the big thing is the running. By the midway point in the season, he was the starting running back by far. Had a good percentage higher of carries than Devin Singletary in the year. Had a good half a yard per carry difference with Singletary there, as I think we got Rob back there. There he is. So yeah, this is a guy that legitimately took the starting role away from a well-established veteran in this league in Devin Singletary that a lot of people had a lot of high words of praise for. Singletary was never a A-tier running back, but he was a B-tier running back. You don't expect a guy from a 5th-round pick to come in and take over that spot. No. And that's exactly what Tracy did. Again, probably the best value pick out of this draft class for the Giants there. We ended up, 3rd, I think, in rushing yards as well for rookies in the NFL. And keep in mind, he didn't play the first 3 or 4 games, basically. He had 2 yards in the first 3 or 4 games like that because he barely got the ball.
Yeah, I don't think he got many snaps the first 2 games.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was definitely one of those slow starts where if he had played the whole year, he would have definitely had a much, much higher, stat count. I mean, if you go here, his first 4 weeks, he had a total of 29 yards rushing in 4 weeks. So he had over 800 yards in 13 games, guys. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
That means, in a full season, he was on pace to do 1,200 yards or so. I'll take that. Again, at a 5th-round pick.
And I found an article from CBS Sports saying Tracy's the top, was number 4. He's in the top 5 talking for rookie running backs. You had Trey Benson, Cardinals, number 1. You had Fidel from the Chargers. I say Cardinals first, right? Cardinals. Number 2, you had Bucky Irvin from the Buccaneers, 3. And then it was Tracy Jr., 4.
So I'm trying to look right here. He was 3.
Oh.
Who do you have his number for number? I got Bucky Irving had 1,122 yards. Jaden Daniels.
Oh, I was saying overall from CBS Sports.
Okay. I thought you said rushing yards. Okay, so rushing yards, he was 3.
Just top. He's number 4 in the rookie running backs.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, yeah, he was. Best. Yeah, he was number 3 in rushing yards, which, again, beat out everybody but 2 people who, quite frankly, had played him the whole entire season. There's a big difference. Jaden Daniels was obviously playing the whole season. Bucky Irving playing the whole season.
Yeah.
Tracy, again, 29 yards the first 4 games. And the crazy thing is, again, 1,122 yards for Bucky Irving, 891 for Jaden Daniels, Tyrone Tracy, 839. There's not a single player with more than 500 yards after that. Those 3 really separate them that much. That's a big separation there. Don't get me wrong, Bucky Irving definitely separated himself a lot more towards the end of the year. But I do also think that part of that was Tyrone Tracy's battling some injuries those last couple weeks. His stats went down almost half a yard from 4.9, where it was, later in the year, to 4.4 by the end of it there. So, like I said, I'm curious to see what he does next year. And I'd really like to see what happens if you go ahead and get him in a situation where he's got a second back to help him, because I don't think Singletary was really doing that too much.
No.
We lost your camera, by the way, right? There you are. Okay.
Yeah.
And then gone again. And gone. What's going on?
I don't know. It's sat there.
But yeah, we really got to look at this. Like I said, getting a second guy to help him out, and I don't think he's going to end up be the workhorse back. I don't think that's a reasonable thing to think of him. But I do think that he has definitely the ability, to go ahead and become that guy who is a good leader of the stable of running backs here, so to speak. Rob, what is going on? Is your camera drunk?
I think so.
Sheesh.
Jeez the piece.
let's get into the next running back here, guys. Devin Singletary, the guy we just talked about a minute ago. And this is the guy that, again, there was a lot of high hopes for him coming out, partially put on himself by grabbing number 26, which I thought was a really ballsy move. I know he wore it his whole season, his whole career. It wasn't like he was just going at it, trying to stick one to Saquon. But, yeah, that's a pretty ballsy move to take that number like that. On the year, 15 games, 113 carries, 437 yards, 3.9 yards per carry average, 4 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, 21 catches for 119 yards. Had a 62.1 PFF grade overall, 54 grade for receiving, 64.5 for rushing. And I think it's safe to say that he was definitely a disappointment this year.
That's an understatement, yeah.
Yeah. And I think not just for us, but for himself as well.
Well, it's also like we kind of alluded to before. Like he was the main guy first few games, and then he started splitting a little more carries with Tracy. And then he got a little injured, and Tracy just took over and never looked back. And Singletary kind of just lost his job. Yeah.
Yeah, but even again, half a yard per carry difference, and there's a reason they gave Tracy the ball more often. It wasn't that just he was young; it's because he did more with it. And that's what it boils down to. Is it's not just that he's the young guy, let's give him a shot. It's he's the hot hand. Keep giving the damn ball. And I've heard a lot of Giants fans already talking about the fact that Devin Singletary needs to go next year, and we've said it ourselves. In a perfect world, he's not on this roster next year. I'd rather let him go, get a young, rookie at that point or something like that in there. To go ahead and split carries with Tracy. But here's the problem. He's got a 6.25 cap number next year. That's a decent cap number for a running back, $6.25 million. Now, if we cut him, we still have a $6 million dead cap hit. So that just tells you we ain't cutting him.
Yeah, he might be moving to third string, but that's about it.
Now, we could trade him, potentially, if somebody wants to trade for him, and you get $3.7 million, $75 million back. So we only cost him $2.5 million against the cap. But you also have to find a team that's not only willing to trade for him, but take on that $7.35 million. That's not nothing for a running back. It's not nearly as bad as the $6 million though. So you might find somebody, but you're not going to get a return for him. That's for damn sure with that kind of contracts with him at that point. The nice thing is there'd be no guaranteed money past that, and you wouldn't have to worry about him next year, being an issue cap base wise for whoever trades for him. It'd be like a 1-year rental basically. 28 years old next year would be as well. Obviously, it's starting to get a little higher up there for running backs, and I think this is one of those cases too that when the Giants are crappy, it also helps them. Because I think teams may look at him and go, well, he's succeeded everywhere. It's the Giants. That's the problem.
Yeah, totally the Giants' fault.
Like, who would have thought being the Giants and being so crappy would help? As your camera's drunk again.
Yeah.
It's definitely, like I said, I definitely think it's a move we got to make to try to figure a way to get rid of him. I think it's best for him. I think it's best for the team. I just don't know how feasible it's going to be with that contract overall. So, we'll have to see what happens there. But I definitely think it's a move that you could see happening at some point this offseason that we look to get rid of, because he's already said himself he's frustrated. He's been very clear on the fact that he's frustrated as well. And he's used to doing better things. He's used to doing, over 1,000 yards a season. Ironically enough, the year that Tyrone Tracy had is kind of what he usually does. 800 and change rush, about 300 yards receiving. Like, that's a typical Devin Singletary year. That's exactly what he is usually. So
typically, yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think you might find somebody who wants him. It's just they might not want him with that contract and try to wait to see if we cut him. And it just doesn't make sense for us to cut him. So
no.
Kind of an impasse unless he takes some kind of pay cut. Because that might inhibit a trade there.
Which, I mean, like we said, it's going to be 28 years old. You might want to get what you can right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Unless he figures out like he can sign somewhere, say the Cardinals or something like that.
Or he just doesn't want to play for the Giants anymore. But I know him and Dable, obviously, and Shane have a good relationship. Their days together in Buffalo. But again, he wasn't happy about losing his starting role, and he had his worst year of his career.
Yeah. So you may take a couple $1 million in a pay cut. Say, I still got the juice. I think I'm going to do this for another 5 years. Then we go somewhere else, rebrand myself, take that $2 million cap hit cut.
Yep.
Yeah. And then know you're going to get on the back end.
Yeah, unless the Giants cut him post June 1st, but even then you only save $1.5 million, and you're just moving some of that money over to next year, so it doesn't really help you.
Yeah, you're just finagling.
Yeah, you're just kicking the can down the road. Yeah, Joe Shane keeps saying he'll never do,
but he does.
He does. He does every time he restructures, but that's a whole separate topic.
Yeah,
let's talk about Eric Gray.
Talk about kicking the can.
Yeah, talk about it. Yeah. The can that needs to be kicked down the street, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Eric Gray, guys, listen, if y'all watch the show on a regular basis, you know my thoughts on Eric Gray. You know Rob's thoughts on Eric Gray. We said point blank this was a reach pick that Joe Shane literally admitted he reached on, by the way. He said point blank, I saw kick returners coming off the board, so I took one that I liked. That's not how you draft, Joe.
No.
That is
we need so for special teams.
And listen, special teams is not nothing, don't get me wrong. But we got Gunnar Olszewski last year off the streets. We got Smith-Marset off the streets this year. It's not like returners aren't available and there's such demand that you'll never get one later on if you don't get one immediately. Like, I don't quite get what there's.
You probably don't need to waste your draft capital on that.
Yeah,
I get the idea. Yeah, you could probably get them real cheap in the 5th round. Just that, but you also could get whoever off the street really cheap. There's the reason why they're on special teams. That's it. That's their niche. Is getting paid cheap.
Yeah, and like I said, I remember when they drafted it, we were both like, what, who, what, where, why, what?
Yeah.
He was not on our radar at all. We did not think of him as somebody that the Giants would be interested in. And yet, we were definitely full with that one. On the season, he's got 17 games he was in, 14 carries for 125 yards. That's less, that's not good.
No.
Yeah, that's, he's, like I said, it's just, you would think in your second year, you would start being able to go ahead and get, I thought that was a typo, 14 carries, 31 yards. I thought that seemed a little off as I'm saying it. 14 carries, 31 yards, and 1 fumble. But you would think at one point in your second season, again, running backs don't typically get better with age. They typically get worse as they go.
Typically.
Second, third year, it's usually your go years. Your rookie year, get a little bit of a pass, but your second, third year is kind of your prime times at that point there. And here's a guy now that literally can't get more than 14 carries. That's really bad. And
it's not like he was on the special teams.
Yeah, well, he was. He was. So he's a kickoff returner still because we're forcing him into a role. We won't let him catch punts anymore because of what happened last year. But as a kickoff returner, 21 returns, 554 yards, which is just a 26.4 yards per carry average.
Yeah,
but that's not good either. I'm sorry. Again, they're people, these guys we're talking about. So I try not to take it to the point of personal. I really do. But he's a waste of a goddamn roster spot. 100% a waste of a roster spot. And this is the guy we're going to talk about that I would have much rather seen with that roster spot to see what he was. It just,
100%.
Yeah, like I said, I don't understand why he's still there. And I think it's just the only thing I think of is Joe Shane is trying to validate his draft pick. But it's already been validated. You already got the ticket. We're not validating your roster parking. It's not going to happen. It was a bad pick. It was a bad move. It made no sense at the time. His only good game he really had his entire time as a Giant was that first preseason game against the Lions where we're like, ooh, maybe something happened to him in the offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
It's kind of like you went to ShopRite or a Giant or Stop Shop. Name your supermarket, wherever you want to go.
Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly, and you got the pig that was on Manager's Special. And you're thinking, ooh, Papa's eating cheap tonight. Yeah. And you get home and it's bad.
Yeah, so you get diarrhea for a week.
That's what you get with Eric Gray.
Cha-cha-cha.
Cha-cha-cha.
Yeah, like I said, I'm good. I really think, again, if you want to leave Eric Gray on the roster for training camp, I'm not against that. I'm not going to be able to cut him now. He's going to be very, very cheap for us right now, obviously. It's a rookie deal, 5th-round draft pick. He's not going to be the one killing the cap. That's going to be Singletary as far as this position. Even that's not really that bad if you think about it. No. So, but his cap number is going to be at next year. It's $1.1 million. And if we cut him, it's only $122,000 in dead cap space. So he's got a lot to prove in training camp that he's worth keeping around, because if he doesn't, he's going to be gone. And he hasn't shown a damn thing to the NFL that shows he's a legit NFL player at this point, except, again, that one preseason game against the Lions that people got all excited. We ate some crow that game. We did. We ate some crow.
Yeah.
But we were proven right in the end, because second season, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, think about that. Like his stats on the year: 31 yards, 48 yards last year.
I mean, last year everyone gave him the excuse. Oh well, he's the third behind Barkley. Second behind Barkley. Okay, whatever. Yeah, you're right. Barkley got 7% of our offensive snaps and 95% of the running back snaps. So, okay. You could kind of validate last year. This year, you had an opportunity to prove yourself. And you digressed.
Yeah. And he went from 2.8 yards per carry to 2.2. Tyrone Tracy literally had 3 games this year with more yards than Eric Gray's had his entire career.
Yeah.
That's, like I said, bad pick, waste of a pick, reached for a guy to do kick returns and punt returns. He can't even do those well.
Yeah.
It's time. I hope he saves some of that money, starts a business back home, maybe a used car dealer or something. I was
going to say, he's definitely going to sell used cars.
Eric Gray Motors.
Whee!
I can see Eric Gray Motors, the commercials now.
We'll be running right back into those price cuts.
Yeah. Go to Eric Gray Motors, but there's no gray area here.
Yeah. But we'll be happy to select you in the draft.
Oh my gosh. All right, guys. Let's get to the guy that Rob and I have been big fans of all year long. And I got to say that I'm extremely disappointed the way he was handled this year. Extremely.
Yes.
Now, am I going to call it one of the biggest blunders of Joe Shane and Dable's year? No, they have too many blunders to put this too high up on the list, guys. It's like
an honorable mention.
Yeah. And that's Turbo Miller. Dante Turbo Miller, guys. I mean, I understand the guy was raw. He hadn't played college football the entire year before the draft. So he only played in 6 games the year before that. So I get it. You want to sit him in the practice squad. You want to give him a chance to kind of get back to game speed, get used to playing football. Though I will say he did practice still with South Carolina the year before. So it wasn't like
I was going to say.
Yeah, it wasn't like he didn't do anything, but.
And he wasn't able to go to, draft day and do all the draft day sports, just kind of like Rudolph. But he still would have been like one of the fastest at the 40.
He would have been basically the top running back in almost every single category last year of the draft. Based on what he did as pro day compared to what people did during their combine. I mean, pro days are a little skewed. People find little ways to enhance their numbers a little bit. So who knows what he would have done at the combine. But in the season, 2 games, just 1 offensive snap, just 7 special team snaps for 1 touchdown. One of the biggest issues I have with the way some of the season went is what we did on Sunday against the Eagles. When the game didn't matter, we can get into other games that didn't matter. Colts, but we can get other games. But I'm just saying, the last game of the goddamn year, they called Turbo Miller up to the active roster. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, good. They're going to do the right thing. They're going to give Turbo a chance to get some snaps. They're going to give guys like
the whole morning
some snaps. And then he's not even active for game day.
I was sitting there as soon as I saw him elevated. It's Turbo time. It's Turbo time. Like, finally, after 18 weeks of talking about this, 3 weeks of preseason, I could say it's Turbo time.
But now instead, we're talking about a guy we still don't know what we have in him. All we've seen him is some practice, some preseason stuff there, playing against other guys that basically ended up on practice squads around the league. And I would have liked to see, even though, again, it's been backups for the Eagles, obviously, but I would have liked to see him play these backups and see what he could have done. Because if he looked bad, it just says that me and Rob were wrong, and he's nothing special at all, and he's got to go, and it's time to move on from this project, potentially. Or we just simmer our expectations to give him another year and see what he does.
Yeah, but, I mean, you could also be like, here's a guy that hasn't played college in a year. He hasn't played football in a year. He's just practice.
Basically 2 years. He played 6 games and like a total of 20 snaps the year before.
Yeah, trying to be able to play this past year to be drafted. So why wouldn't you give him the opportunity to see if he still has it against NFL caliber players that aren't starters?
Yeah.
That's kind of a cushiony way to see if you're able to play in the NFL.
And not to mention the fact that you literally had your starting running back been fighting injuries. Like, you're basically risking a bigger injury for Tyrone Tracy Jr. and refusing to give Turbo a chance. Like I said, I'm not sitting there saying Turbo's going to be amazing. All I'm saying is you got him into the building. You brought him into the building. Why not give him a shot and see what he can do? You have nothing to lose at this point. Unless he goes off and you lose your draft pick, but that's a whole separate issue. You can just bench him again. But
yeah, he goes off for an
sit down
run with a touchdown. You're like,
but
get there.
Like I said, I don't understand it. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. I'm just hoping that he gets a chance this year coming up in the draft. There's nothing we're missing by not being able to go to some of the practices and hear that kind of stuff. And it's not he just looks bad, because everybody I talked to that went to the actual training camps and open practices and all said he looked good. He looked good in preseason. Again, Eric Ray looked good that one preseason game too. So I'm holding that with a certain, lack of validity to a certain degree there potentially because of that. But again, he deserved a shot.
Yeah.
Just give him a chance. Let him run the ball. See what happens. Because now instead, again, you're going to go in next year with Tyrone Tracy Jr., who's going to be your legit running back in this league. Devin Singletary, who you probably want to move on from. Eric Gray, that you should want to move on from. And now Turbo Miller, that you have no clue what you have in him. And maybe another guy you draft. The room doesn't look as good as if you can go, hey, Turbo Miller, good. He's a guy that we can bring into bottom level kind of guy and to see what he develops into. We have no clue now. And what do we gain out of it? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's like war. What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, waste of time. That's all that is. All righty, guys. Let's get to the wide receivers. And we got to talk about our number one wide receiver. I had to use his number one number there. Also, it makes Rob happy because he bought the one jersey.
It validates my jersey.
It does. That's exactly what I was thinking as I did it. Malik Neighbors, 15 games, 109 catches, 1,204 yards, 11 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 462 yards after contact, 16 plays over 20 yards, 5 carries, 2 yards, 86.7 PFF grade with an 87.1 receiving grade. Guys, I'm not going to sit here and say his year is perfect, because there's not many times you can sit there and say anybody's year is perfect. And the biggest issue is obviously going to be the drops. To be honest, let's call what it is right off the bat. The drops were an issue this year.
Especially the first half. It feels like he kind of got a little better in the second half.
But this is legitimately one of the best rookie wide receivers in the in the history of the NFL. It's not even any exaggeration. He literally is second all time in receiving or in receptions by a rookie. Like that's pretty good. Like that's anytime you're and it wasn't for the fact that Brock Bowers were there this year, he would have that record as well.
Yo, Brock Bowers is another guy that's just been fantastic.
Yeah.
We all made that like bonehead, like, what were the Ravens thinking? Getting Bowers in the first round. They just did this a year ago.
Yeah, worked out. Every so often, a broken clock is right too. At least twice a day.
Just not what Antonio Pierce. Wow.
But he was 282 yards away from the rookie record for receptions, receiving yards, and that's while missing 2 games, while battling a lot of injuries as well. So if he was healthy the whole year, he very well might have gotten it.
And that's with 4 quarterbacks throwing the ball.
Yeah, and that's with 4 people that are called quarterbacks throwing the ball.
It's not like Puka Nacua when he had Matt Stafford, who's won a Super Bowl ring and has been in the playoffs plenty of times and has proven himself multiple times with 4,000 plus passing yards year in, year out. And his multiple years in his career. Yeah.
I mean, I think Daniel Jones had 4,000 passing yards for his career. Just seems like it. I can tell you, Bill definitely doesn't have that many.
You could probably be honest and say that in 3 years, 2.5 years that Matt Stafford has been a passer. We'll give him the past 3 years. He's thrown more yards than Daniel Jones in his career.
Yeah, I mean, the only other knock I would give on Neighbors, and this is a knock on him, stop trying to use him in the end-around rushes. He's not good at it, or they're not setting it up, and the team isn't good at it. How many times do you see him run across, grab the ball for a rush, go to the other side at that point, do that end-around, and get hit behind the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at his yards. This is crazy.
Again, I'm not saying 100% it's him. The Giants obviously had some issues on offense this year, to put it nicely. So it could have been a scheme issue or something like that. But it didn't work, and I felt like we kept on seeing it. I'm like, why are we watching the same play again? This should be out of the playbook by now.
This is the hopes and dreams because of his yak yards.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, he's been very good at yak yards. And I thought that there was plenty of times that you saw him go ahead and get the ball, and he'd make the one guy miss that was near him and go get 5-10 more yards out of it at that point, though. Look at the tape for him against the Commanders. Like, I know it ended on the drops. Everybody likes to focus on that. But look at the rest of the time that he caught the ball 5 yards down the field with the 10 yards to go and would make the one guy miss and go grab that first down. I mean, it's just like, he can only do so much. And did he need a little help with the media? I think, the Giants in the offseason would be smart to direct him towards somebody who can help him as far as what he should or should not say to the media a little better.
Yeah.
I definitely think that's a semi-knock, because it doesn't affect him on the field, but a semi-knock, maybe publicly saying, I don't care if I drop the ball. So maybe not the best move in the world.
Yeah, I don't care if he's a meat stick. That's fine. As long as he can do his job on the field.
Yeah, and he does. And he does it well. And I'm curious to see what happens with him if we get an actual quarterback.
Yeah. Like, just imagine they go get yourself a Cam yard, or you get yourself a bridge quarterback that I know people have been talking about having Kirk Cousins coming here, which I think is crazy.
Matt Stafford, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold, which I doubt that one. I mean, I'm just throwing. There's plenty of names out there.
Just imagine one of those guys coming over here,
and then he'd be a 1,600 yard receiver all day long,
easy,
just based on what he did this year. As long as he can.
That's what Jameis Winston gets him. Imagine how many deep balls that guy could.
He would get 12 touchdowns. The defense would get 15.
Listen, it's an improvement of the touchdowns that Harris had this year.
Oh my God, it's sad. But yeah, like I said, I think we kind of lost in the shuffle how good a rookie season he had. I really do, because of how bad the Giants were. I mean, he literally broke the franchise record for most receptions in a season.
Yeah.
Not for a rookie, the most receptions in a season. That's crazy. By the way, I don't know if you realize this. The Giants now have 3 of the top 8 most receptions in a rookie year in NFL history.
Ooh.
And it's OBJ, Saquon, and now Neighbors. Just goes to show you that maybe that doesn't help you win that much. Just throwing that out there. Because we have that, and during the time frame, we've been really, really bad. So,
Drew, there's no I in team.
All righty, guys. Let's get to the next guy here for you. And we're going to have probably one of the most controversial people that we got on this team coming up here. And that's Mr. Wan'Dale Robinson, who you and I talked about prior to the season. We said he's a 100-catch guy all day long. Well, apparently he's a 93-catch guy. We were close.
Womp.
But literally, that's got to be a record for the least amount of yards in a 90-plus catch season. 699.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is, and you're going to spit out the facts, they constantly throw him the ball at short range, slant plays, and most of those yards, like half of those yards, come from yak yards.
Yep.
So that's pretty sad when you throw it to a guy 93 times, and it's legit. Like you throw 93 times,
yeah,
and it only goes for 350 yards or wherever it is.
Well, let's give the yards real quick here because we got 17 games, 93 catches, 699 yards, 7.5 yards per catch average, 3 touchdowns, had 361 yards of yak. So, like you said, more than half of his yards came from the yak at that point. If he gets stopped when he caught the ball every single time, he would end up with 338 yards on 93 catches.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just did the math. You divide that by 93. So they, on average, threw him the ball 3 yards, points, 3 and a third yards, pretty much on average.
Yeah.
And how many times was that behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage?
And he's another one that had the dropsies and the oopsies, guys. But I'm telling you right now, I'm not blaming him. I'm not, because you know what happens? He's been Patrick Ramsey'd, and I never thought I'd say that about a wide receiver.
Oh,
but that's what's happening is you're taught when you're young playing the receiver role that you catch the ball with your eyes. You know, like you got to look at the ball in at that point and make sure you catch the ball, because you can't make your next step, because if you don't catch the ball, it doesn't matter what step you make next. You know, you're taught that on Pee Wee football. But here's the problem. When you're getting smacked around every goddamn time you catch the ball, because like Rob said, you're getting a ball 3-4 yards down the field, and there's a 280-pound guy about to smack you, and you weigh 160 pounds, whatever the hell Wan'Dale is, like 180.
180.
I'm just saying, he's given up a ton of weight, and he's getting smacked around really badly on a consistent game-by-game basis. So what turns into happening is he's hearing footsteps when he goes to catch the ball.
I don't even think it's that far. I think you're overthinking that part, because what did he have last year?
Look it up. But I can tell you this was nowhere near that. Let's see. 60 receptions for 525 yards. His yak yards. I'm going to find it here for you. Let's see. Where'd it go? I'm not seeing it on here. But regardless, you're still talking that's, a good yard and a third. Granted, that's not great either. I'm not trying to suggest that, but that's still nowhere near the same kind of situation. I can guarantee once I find the yak yards here in a second, that is nowhere near. Actually, I won't, because I got them off PFF, and I can't get that for this year because I'm not paying them. So, but yeah, like I said, I'll guarantee you that it's not the same at that point at all. And
didn't he also have something that's ended his season?
That was his rookie. Yeah, that was his.
Yeah.
It was ACL's rookie year, wasn't it?
It was
rookie year right after that Lions game that he had over 100 yards, or during it. Actually, it was during the Lions game.
It was during the Lions game. It's third quarter.
Yeah.
So he kind of looked like he's finally bouncing back from a surgery, like an ACL surgery, which everyone says your first year back, you don't look the same. So takes usually year or two to come back.
Yeah,
And the first couple games, like he turns around, and a lot of his, if you look at the lot of throws he gets, it's slant, turn. Like you don't get time to look at it because he's in the middle of turning every single time. And I don't think the motion is quite right there.
Well, the motion is too early is part of it. But again, I think the motion being early is because he's been hit so many damn times. Like I said, it's not easy when you're giving up that kind of size at that point. By the way, I do have it up here so I can see his height, weight, 5'8", 185 pounds. So he's going against guys because he's 3 yards down the field. So he's in line with linebackers and defensive linemen. Like he's literally got people, 250 to 300 plus pounds tackling him 3 yards down the field. Like I can't blame him for hearing footsteps. I can't blame him for the drops. The Giants did not use him correctly. The Giants did not set him up in a scenario where he was able to go ahead and, actually get some separation and then try to get some legit yak yards. Because he's got some yards, but that's got to be, like I said, it's got to be a record, like the least amount of yards with that many catches. And I looked it up on a prior episode when we were talking about it. I couldn't find any notification of it. I can tell you this. He was only one of two players in NFL history with over 120 targets that didn't reach 700 yards receiving. I know I saw that stat.
Which is crazy. I'm not going to go with the footstep theory quite yet because look at how many yak yards he did have when he did catch the ball. So he's obviously still moving. If he was hearing footsteps, you would probably freeze up as soon as you caught the ball.
It's just the times you heard the footsteps that didn't drop the ball. That's what it boils down to. I mean, you don't drop the ball every single time. It's a percentage game. But
but usually you would freeze up if you heard that happen, or you wouldn't run as hard as you would. You literally over doubled your yards with yak.
Yeah.
With you're not going to do that if you're afraid of getting hit. You're probably going to stiffen up and get ready for the hit, then run.
He gets an E for effort.
You're giving him an E for effort. So.
No, but I'm just saying. I just think this is another guy like Neighbors that you give him a good quarterback and damn.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he was utilized properly.
I think the scheme and the quarterback both Dable and the quarterbacks, because again, how many times do you see 3rd and 8? And you see him run a 4-yard catch, a 4-yard route, and get the ball.
Yeah,
he has to figure out how to turn it into 8 yards or 9 yards.
Yeah, it's 3rd and 8. Here, have the ball at the line of scrimmage. Figure it out.
Yeah, like it wasn't a fair position they put him in all season long. I felt like, and I feel like this kid's a beast. This kid, if he's on with an actual quarterback and an actual legit offensive scheme, could be a 1,000-yard, 100-catch guy all day long.
Yes.
Like you literally could see if you get him young and healthy, he's young right now, get him healthy as well, and keep him getting all these hits because that's going to affect him at 185 pounds. He could these two, him and Neighbors, could be our version of, Evans and Godwin, like they have in Tampa and for years. Like both those guys are that kind of talent, and that's saying a lot. Mike Evans literally just tied a Jerry Rice record this year, so it's like. He's a guy who's undervalued in this league to a certain degree there, definitely. But Neighbors is going to be a special player, guys, if we can just keep him with a good quarterback and keep him grounded. And Wan'Dale has the chance to be that just absolute catch beast. And he's got to be set up with a chance to succeed. And then you'll see all of a sudden those yards start going up. Again, 93 catches, 93 catches. So imagine if he was 5 yards down the field instead of 3. He's almost at the 1,000 yards just there alone.
Yes,
I'm saying that's the craziness of this whole scenario. It's absolutely ridiculous, guys. All right, let's get into our next receiver, which we talked a little bit about last episode because we gave a list of pending free agents that we were interested in keeping or not keeping, and Darius Slayton definitely came up on the list, guys, because he is probably the biggest name as far as free agents for the Giants here. Obviously you can have an argument with that with some other people, but to me, he's the big one. I'll put it that way. 16 games, 39 catches, 573 yards, the 14.7 yards per catch average, 2 touchdowns, 124 yak yards, 9 plays over 20 yards, 2 carries, 17 yards. He had a 59.0 PFF grade and a 59.9 receiving grade. One punt return of the year as well, but for it was a fair catch, so no yards on it. So, listen, guys, we've gone over Slayton enough. He's been here enough years. Underappreciated. And I even got with the last video we put up of whether or not we should re-sign him. We had Giants fans in the comment section like, oh, Giants fans seem to be happy having mid players. No, it's not a mid player when you 700 yards a season with guys like Daniel Jones and all these other schlubs as a quarterback. I'm sorry. That's not mid.
No.
Mid is getting kind of we got this year. You could say that. Like this is the first year, 500 some odd yards. Every other year, 700, 700, 700, 700. You could say this is his worst year, and it's a legit statement to say that.
As I'm saying, it's an odd statement. It really is.
But again, you can talk about the stuff we've talked about just a moment ago. We talked about Wan'Dale Robinson. Scheme is an issue. For half the year, you had DJ as the quarterback who was afraid to throw the ball down the field for some reason, and when he did, he was way off. Be very frank about that. He was way off. He was not a good deep thrower at all this year. What used to be his strong suit when he was younger and first getting in the league. Then you had, Tommy DeVito, who had trouble throwing the ball in general. You had Drew Lock, who had trouble throwing the ball to the right team. You had Tim Boyle, who has just trouble putting his uniform on. So I'm just saying, like, they got to. If we talk about the receivers, we have to talk about the fact the offense was what the offense was. It was literally the worst offense in the league, and this guy still figured out to manage a spot to be the third best receiver and get almost 600 yards. It's not like he did 200 yards. There's plenty of receivers out there that wish they had 573 yards. I don't know where that ranks in NFL rankings, so they're not going to give me a list that long, but it could be a whole lot worse, that's for sure.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
It's a long
I'm not
list.
saying he'd be top 20, top 30, because I'm not stupid, obviously. But he's definitely probably more than average still as far as receiving yards. And it wasn't like they were forcing the ball to him left and right. They were forcing the ball to Neighbors and Wan'Dale, for being honest. That's part of the reason his production wasn't, because they weren't throwing the ball downfield to him, which is what we did whenever he's successful. By the way, I'm looking it up. He was 59th in the league in receiving yards. It's not too shabby.
59th in the league, right? So 32 teams in the league. You wrap it back around. That leaves him as the number 2 in the league.
Yeah, low end number 2, and he was our number 3. Yeah. Like I said, solid. I still say it. I know I'm going to get credit for it. I get credit for it every time we say it in the show. Solid. He's not a Neighbors. I'm not trying to say that. He's not an OBJ. I'm not trying to say that. But he's a guy who has succeeded under the worst possible conditions, basically, in all of football.
What, our coaching staff?
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying you have a guy who is speedy and depends on getting the ball down the field and deep throws, combined with a team with a bad offensive scheme, bad quarterback play, and an offensive line that has trouble blocking and keeping the quarterback off his butt for more than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
All these things hurt Darius Slayton big time. Telling you, part of me, and I hate to say it as a Giant fan, but part of me almost hopes he would go elsewhere so people can see what he is.
This is where we get have buyer's remorse of, let him go.
No, it's not even that way. I just feel bad for the guy. You know what I mean? It's like, think of it this way: like, you ever see somebody with a vet they keep under a tarp in the garage?
Oh yeah, take it out and go for a drive.
That's what I feel like we are with Slayton.
It's like having a big old Greyhound inside an apartment.
I said vet, not Bugatti, nothing crazy before people get on me.
Touche.
But he's a really fast, really good value player, which is what a vet is. Very fast car. It's a good value. That's what he is, guys.
Imagine just having like a Greyhound, like not the bus, but the dog, just stuck up in an apartment all day, hours on a day.
Yeah.
Just let him go out to a farm. Let him run.
They don't go to the farm when they die.
Old Yeller didn't die. Stop.
He did. Yeah, he had the rabies. Spoiler alert. Let's talk about another guy. That's another speedy guy here. Jalen Hyatt, who obviously does not look very happy in his picture there, and for good reason, guys.
That's what I say. Very good reasons.
Yeah, very good reasons. Not for once. I don't think it's the Giants' fault, but 16 games, 8 catches, 62 yards, 7.8 yards per catch, just 6 yak yards. Guys, we said it, and I said one day we talk about Jalen Hyatt, we should just pull out the old tape and to show the video of what we said back when he was drafted. We said he is extremely fast, and he is a one-trick pony. Now, at that time we talked about him, we thought he'd go first round, second round. We said he's a one-trick pony, and it's a nice trick, but it's not good enough where he's probably going to get drafted, and we don't want him. Then we got him in the middle of the third round. We were happy and fine with that. And I still have no problem with the pick. I really don't. But I have a problem when you don't move on from a mistake, and that's what this is.
Yeah.
You have a guy who is a twig stick figure receiver who, for whatever reason, seems to refuse to go to the gym and bulk up just to even, I'm not even saying to become like a tight end or something crazy, like, you know,
for his own safety.
He's got to be able to figure out a way to beat press coverage, and he can't figure it out. Now, I'm going to hear people, when I say this, talk about guys like Smith and Philly and stuff like that, like smaller guys who figured it out. Deshaun Jackson, again, ex-Eagle, figured it out. There's the
not
problem.
Many of those.
Jalen Hyatt hasn't figured it out. And that's the problem. You know, you can't be, you know, a 6-foot twig, which is what he basically is.
He's a 175.
They list him at 185, but I swear he looks skinnier.
No.
I swear.
No way.
He looks like
if you sit him next to Wandell, you can see that Wandell's a bigger person, and they're listed at the same weight.
Now, fairness though, he has like 4 inches on him too. So I mean, that's part of it. There's a difference because Wandell's a little more compressed, but I'm just saying, I think that's the issue. He can't beat the press. He's still having trouble running pro style routes, and this Giants offense can't throw the ball deep, which is the one thing he naturally can do. So I'm going to give him, there's 3 issues. The size, that's him not going to the gym. The route running, that's him not picking it up. But the lack of using his speed is the Giants offense. 2 out of 3 are his fault. The third one we got to acknowledge is the Giants.
Yeah.
Again, anything we talked about with Slayton, can't throw the ball deep because we don't have a good quarterback, don't have a line that can block and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's all legitimate stuff. But who would have thought we'd draft Jalen Hyatt 2 years in and still wouldn't have a touchdown?
No one. Didn't see that on the cards.
Bryce Ford Wheaton has a touchdown. He doesn't have a single reception yet. Just saying. And it's not like they haven't tried. Like, if you listen to the beat writers that were out there literally every single play possible during training camp, they will tell you point blank that the Giants did everything in their power to give Isaiah Hodgins the job that Darius Slayton had. They wanted him to win because they want to be able to move on from Slayton and use that money towards something else and keep Hyatt, who's much cheaper because he's still on a rookie deal. They wanted him to win. He couldn't. He couldn't beat out Slayton. So remember that, because I still hear people, oh, the Giants aren't using Hyatt right. Well, we got to put Hyatt out there. You think
Hyatt's not using himself right.
Yeah, and like you think that like Slayton is bad, but you like Hyatt. Because that's what I hear Giants fans say. Slayton is mid and bad, and Jalen Hyatt should get more time on the field.
Yeah.
He can't beat Slayton out on practice.
Yeah.
Like I know I've talked about it before. We talked about Turbo Miller before, saying the Giants should give him a shot. The difference is we've seen Hyatt on the field. We've seen it, and it has not been good. You know, like at a certain point, you just got to admit to your mistake and move on. Same as like we talked about Eric Gray. You got to move on. He's had 903 snaps, guys, on offense in his career so far. And he's got 31 receptions to show for it. That's not good.
And there's a reason why.
That means like 1 out of every 30 plays, you catch the ball. Not good.
That's not so good. Okay.
No, like I said, you would figure it out by then. He can't figure it out because he's just not that good. It's time to move on. We really should cut bait with him. I don't know where he's at as far as over the cap, but it can't be high because he's a 3rd round pick. So let's see where he's at here. So we'd save $1 million by cutting him. He's got a $1.5 million cap hit. Move on.
Yeah.
Time to go. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the effort. I'm sure you put effort in. Like I said, I don't want to ever take it personal, even though I kind of talk like I do. But he's just not that good, and it's time to move on. Maybe somebody else picks him up and gets
The Raiders.
Start working out with Eddie Lacy or something. I don't know. Like it's just for me, it's not going to happen. And
Eddie Lacy workout going to the Golden Corral.
Yes, exactly. All righty, guys. We got a couple more receivers, then we're going to pay the bills real quick here and get your comments. Then we'll go to the tight ends as well. So, first up here on once we got left, Isaiah Hodgins, and this is a review / goodbye, guys. If you haven't heard, Isaiah Hodgins was not offered one of those reserve deals. The 49ers gave it to him, so he is now already a San Francisco 49er. He will not be a Giant, at least the start of the year. We'll see what happens overall. 3 games, 2 catches, 12 yards, 1 yard of yak on the season. And, I think we'll always remember Isaiah Hodgins fondly for his time back in 22 and everything he did for the Giants that year, because he basically became like a number 1 receiver. It was him and Slayton, and that was it, basically.
Yeah, what did he put up in the half year? Like 500 yards?
351 yards in half a year. So 33 receptions, 351 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And then the next year, we talked about it going into 23. We said Isaiah Hodgins will be the biggest disappointment for the Giants. Little did we know the Giants themselves would be the biggest disappointment for the Giants. But player was, you could make the case that he was. I mean, probably Darren Waller was number 1 if you want to go to that route. But
returning Giants.
Hodgins was definitely a disappointment. I mean, he was played all 17 games. He had 21 catches for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not good. No. And like I said, that he went down to 2 catches for 12 yards this year, which is just insanity because for some reason we had 3 guys to throw to on receivers and that's it. If you look at it again, 93 yards, 93 catches for Robinson, 109 for Neighbors. Then he got 39, 8, 2. Like, 2. You can't throw to 2 guys. That's one thing. Whoever calls the plays next year, so I'm hoping it's not Dable, obviously. I think we all are. They got to learn to spread the ball out a little bit because that's part of the getting hit, like we talked about too with Wan'Dale. Also, Neighbors for that matter. You basically knew if you were playing the Giants, you got to block those 2 guys, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean,
predictable offense.
Brian Dable even came out in the press said, "Yeah, the game plan was just throw Neighbors the ball."
Yeah, that's what they did.
Oh, okay.
All season long.
Yeah. So you're just all night.
It's just like I said, it's a shame because one thing I feel like this team's been missing, especially this year, was a tall receiver who's good in the end zone. And that's what Hodgins basically was. Who's never going to be a great player. That half a season, I'm sorry, was his Jeremy Lin time. Like that's what it was. Let's call it what it is. But it was still, he showed he has some ability to play football. Some ability. Yeah. And to not utilize a guy like that when you don't have that kind of, wide receiver otherwise, it's a travesty. But that's what the Giants are. They're one big travesty. So best of luck, Isaiah Hodgins, to everything, going forward in your career. Hope it's a long, healthy career for you there. He's going to Kyle Shanahan now. Watch him turn him into a great player. Be our luck. But no, seriously, like I said, I really think he was that guy. We've talked about it before, like low-end guys during draft time. There's low-end guys are either one of 2 categories. Either the try-hard guys who don't have it physically, but try hard, or the da-da-da guys that are like really physically able but can't grasp the concept for some reason.
Yeah.
And he was definitely in the try-hard category. He worked his butt off. So, I want to root for a guy like that. So, again, Isaiah Hodgins, best luck in San Francisco.
Yeah, tip my hat to you.
Heard is good food there. They have this rice with some roni.
Yeah. I hear it's a real treat.
Man, maybe they put it in a waffle cone or something. I don't know. Next up, and we talked about this guy briefly before, Amir Smith-Marset, who I almost didn't put him in this category because he's technically a wide receiver, but he didn't have a single catch or rush this entire season. He's really a returner. But they list him as a wide receiver. So we're going to talk about it with the wide receivers. 111. 111. Whoop, that's way off there. I swear I must have been drunk doing some of these stats here today. This is what happens when you have too much on your day off. You're doing at that point. Let me just verify real quick how many returns it was here for him. Where'd he go here? There we go. So yeah, let's see here for kick returns. We had 11 returns for 381 yards on the year there. 34.6 yard average return. You notice that's about 10 more than what Eric Gray had. 1 touchdown as well. Obviously, we will not forget that one because that 1 touchdown potentially cost us Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward against the Colts.
Right past everything.
Yeah, punt return wise, 29 for 228 yards. That's a 7.9 yards per carry average. Not excellent, but certainly not bad. And he's the guy that I hope we see next year on the roster. I don't know what they're going to do as far as Gunnar Olszewski. He was injured obviously all year long, and they might want to bring him in next year as well. But hell, bring the two of them in and say point blank, it's one of you two. You guys
figure it out.
And figure out which one you want to keep, or keep them both and move Eric Gray off the roster entirely and not have him return at all. But Smith-Marset, like I said, a guy that you can't help but root for. Jersey boy too, if I remember correctly as well. So, like I said, I think this could be a potential home for him here. I really do think that. And he was from Newark, by the way, so Brick City there. But he is a guy that I think should stick around. We've had issues with the return game for how long? He's a good, solid returner. And you know what? Even better. I hate to be cheap about it. He's cheap.
So cheap.
He's like $1 million contract of the year. Which I know it's not cheap, $1 million, but for football terms, it is.
Yeah.
Like nothing. So, yeah, like I said, to me, I'm bringing him back. I'm bringing him back all day long. And worst case scenario, I'm letting him and Olszewski go ahead and battle out for the same position. But I want him on the roster. I do. So, one last guy to talk about. And then we're off to the tight ends. This guy's a fan favorite. This is a guy that fans have been clamoring for like crazy. We were clamoring for the last week to give him a chance to actually see what he can do there. But for whatever reason, the Giants just didn't want to do it again. Same as Turbo. And that's Bryce Ford-Wheaton, who literally got just 2 snaps on offense this season, 286 snaps on special teams, had 5 tackles. So that's a good outing on special teams there, by the way, as well as also returned that blocked field goal for a touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks there in the game-ending big play there in the last win the Giants had all year long in week 5, was it? Or 6, whatever it was?
6.
Yeah. So, yeah. Again, this is a guy we've talked about for the last couple of years because fans saw the highlight reel tape of him. And we kept on saying, calm down. He's not that good. Yeah. But for some reason, the fans kept wanting to see him. A lot of physical tools, extremely high drop rate in college. But again, a guy that I think they should have put in the lineup the last week of the year, same as we said with Turbo Miller, and see what you got. Give him a chance. Especially when you got a hobbled Malik Neighbors. I know he's going for the Giants record for single season receptions there. But he's hobbling on the place to do it. So to me, a guy like Bryce Ford-Wheaton should have been on the field. Should have got a chance to see a little more what you got in him.
Yeah.
That. Was injured his rookie year, didn't play at all. And obviously they worked with him a lot of tape and film and showing him things and how to read things going on in the field. And then you put him now with his second year where he was on the practice squad for much of the year. He was on the active roster for part of it, but as we said, got 2 offensive snaps, so we didn't really get a chance to catch. This was his chance. Week 17 was his chance. And, this is now 2 years on the roster. without a single regular season catch. That tells me he'll probably go to camp, and it'll probably be his last shot.
Probably.
You don't get so many chances when you can't contribute at all. Dead weight is not kept around. And again, I appreciate the blocked field goal for a touchdown, but that doesn't exclude you from the ability that you have to learn how to catch the ball, how to be a receiver, how to have an actual role on this offense. So yeah, probably his last training camp, unless all of a sudden he figures out how to, break through with a roster that, again, not very good. It's not like he's got 7 legit receivers ahead of him.
No, 3.
Oh,
pretty much.
It's kind of what I expected. Like I said, I wasn't too high on him to begin with. I watched a lot of tape, saw a lot of drops, and was not that high. But I get it. He's got the athletic stuff people love. He's a combine beast. That's what he is. So, all righty, guys. Before we get into the tight ends here, let's go ahead and pay those bills real quick.
Enjoying the show? Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
Alrighty, guys. And if you haven't already, you can also hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share button. They're all free ways to support the show. Besides the Buy Me a Coffee, if you want to go ahead and support the show monetarily wise, you can, of course, do a super chat on YouTube, or you can also go ahead and send stars on Facebook, or just watch the videos on YouTube. We get paid per view. So go ahead and feel free to watch all the videos there. We have 3 live shows a week there. We'll do every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And of course, we'll have segments going up as videos on YouTube all throughout the entire week there. So while we're waiting for Rob to get back here, let's go into the tight ends here. And first tight end up is another rookie. Great rookie class we had this year, guys. And that's Theo Johnson. And talk about a slow start he had. Theo Johnson was the guy I was not very high on at all the way he started his rookie season. I was definitely a little disappointed with the outcome there. But he pulled it together. And he's got me one of the guys I'm really intrigued about to see what's going to happen next year. Because he went from a guy that didn't put much out there to being a consistent, a consistent player towards the second half of his shortened season, also because of the injury. 18 yards his first week out there, no yards second week, 13 yards, 6 yards. So yeah, not a very good outcome to have, 37 yards in 4 games. But then 48 yards, 30 yards, no yards, 35, 51, 37, 39, and 54. Put it together. That's 40 yards a game or so at that point. 40 yards, that's not bad once he started getting going. So that puts you at 680 yards in the season on that kind of season. So overall in the year, 12 games, 29 catches, 331 yards, 11.4 yards per catch, 1 touchdown, 149 yak yards, and 4 plays over 20 yards. Now, again, he's a rookie. And this is a very difficult position for rookies to pick up. Rookies don't tend to hit the ground running from the tight end position. That's what makes what Brock Bowers is doing that much more amazing, really, guys. But there's a lot of growing pains in there. It's also probably the worst position that, teams are at as far as, drafting and knowing what these guys are. It just seems to be a problem this NFL has overall. How many first-round guys you see that fail, and how many fourth-round guys you see become Pro Bowls? It happens on the regular in this position here. Overall in the season, a 53.6 PFF grade. And like I said, I'm really interested to see what happens with year 2 with him. I'm expecting a year of growth. I'm expecting a 500-600 yard season as far as receptions. I'm expecting improvement as far as his blocking abilities because we knew that was going to be a project coming into this. But yeah, like I said, slow start, but I can't complain, even though I know 331 yards sounds light. But if he hadn't been hurt, he'd be 450, 500 yards probably. He missed 5 games. That's a decent chunk of the season there. So, again, very hopeful for things to come for Theo Johnson. And I'm not so sure what he develops into. But I'll tell you, I think he probably would develop into a probably like a mid-level starting tight end of this league. I think that's probably where he's going to end up being. And if you can get that with the 4th-round pick, it's a win. It's a solid pickup. Like I said, as much as we talk trash about Shane lately in his drafting, that is definitely a good draft class he's got this year. Are you there, Rob? I think I hear you in the background. There you are.
Oh, it's me. Sorry.
So,
I got this camera again.
Any other thoughts you got on Theo Johnson?
Oh, I mean, I knew what you said before that, but yeah, I think. Sorry, no, I mean, Theo had a great. Well, I shouldn't say great. He had a good, rookie class. Like, we would like to see a little bit more of him, but once again, I guess the theme of this episode is scheming.
Well, it's also really slow start. Like I said, didn't have a lot of the first 4 weeks. And then got hurt. It's kind of like he got things going and then got hurt.
Yeah.
But I think you look at a guy like that and you look at, that kind of rookie year out of a 4th-round pick, you can't be upset with it. If he was a 1st-round pick, you'd say it's a disappointment. But out of a 4th-round pick to get 331 yards out of a tight end rookie season when he barely did anything the first 4 weeks and got rolling, I mean, again, 5 games missing that.
Yeah. What's his face? That's the tight end over at Buffalo that everyone's been talking about this year.
Oh, Dawson.
What do you have? Kasich? I think he's got what?
You're talking about Kincaid. You're talking about Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, Kincaid. What did he have this year? He didn't have 500 yards, and he played. I don't think he missed a game.
He had 448 yards. He had 673 in his rookie year, though. So his rookie year was actually a little bit better, but I don't want to sit there and say that I'm enough of a football fan to know off the top of my head if he had any injury concerns, even if he didn't miss games because of it.
I don't know fantasy football, so
13 games, 9 starts. So yeah, he definitely had some injuries popping up. So, but he's a solid. I liked him coming out when he was coming out of Utah, I think. Utah. I liked him coming out of Utah. So, but like I said, good rookie year. It's a building block year. And I think he's the guy you look at next year to come out, hit the ground running, and be a guy that you can sit there and go, okay, we can work with this. This could be part of it. And like I said, I think he'll be an average starting tight end in this league when it's all said and done. That's my projection for him. And if I'm wrong, fine, draft another one and bundle him up with a second guy there at that point. You got a duo. There's nothing wrong with that. He's at least that. Yeah. He's at least that. He's that right now, if we're being honest. Again, 5 games missed. You can basically cut in half what he did and say he's a 450-yard guy if he was not injured. So
with once again a terrible offensive scheme going on.
Yep, and doing nothing the first 4 weeks, and terrible quarterbacks and terrible everything. Just not terrible towels.
Well, they made the playoffs this year.
All righty, guys. Let's get into our next guy. Guys, another fan favorite here. That's Daniel Bellinger. And another year of Bellinger where you go, who, what, where is he? What's going on?
We talked about Belly his freshman year, kind of like we just talked about Theo Johnson.
Yeah. We say the same thing. Great analogy.
Really, he showed such potential, like slow start, but he was really like, man, that guy showed up with a half his eyeball hanging out pretty much his freshman year, like with that injury. And, like, he still put up, what, 450?
Well, no, actually, his rookie year, I had to look at the stats, actually, because I remembered it more better than what it was as well. 30 catches, 268 yards.
Way off. But maybe that was projection.
But the difference in him and Theo Johnson is the fact that he's a much better blocker than Theo Johnson is. So it's kind of like the analogy still works. It's just one's a more receiving tight end and one's more of a blocking tight end. but Bellinger was specifically a security blanket kind of tight end where you didn't really scheme for him very often, but he'd be the guy if you rolled out and needed to throw to somebody before you get sacked. He's probably the guy that's going to be sitting there waiting for you.
And yeah, he was always pretty good about getting the yak yards, like because he was such a good blocker when he caught the ball. I don't want to say like he blocks his way out of it, but like he was just so strong that like he was able to defend some of those corners or tight end corners or safeties that are coming up on him, which he outweighed.
Yeah, and I remember his rookie year when he got hurt too. Our run game went way down all of a sudden from him not being there as a blocker. Like he was a very big component of that.
He was the right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, but the problem we're into is he's been relegated to a backup role. He definitely is not a guy you see as often on the field as he used to with that rookie year. I don't know what happened. I feel like there's something we're missing where there's some kind of falling out, and I don't know what it was. He only
definitely slept with someone's wife.
32% of offensive plays this season, guys, whereas 72 and 62 is his first 2 years. So he's getting half the snaps that he was getting last year. And, the production is just about that, half. Last year, 25 catches, 255 yards. This year, 14 catches, 125 yards. So I don't think he's gotten any worse. I think there's just something going on that behind the scenes we're unaware of. And I don't want to speak ill of him or anybody else in this scenario and pretend like to guess on what it could be because I'm not there. I don't know. They don't tell us these things.
No.
They keep some stuff in-house, as they should. Quite frankly, they should. So, yeah, we'll see what happens overall with Bellinger. He's got one more year under contract, so he'll be a Giant probably next year. But he was one of the guys that you talked about at the end of the training camp here about potentially getting cut. I remember that conversation. They were like, oh, watch Bellinger potentially get cut. He didn't get cut, but he definitely got used a whole lot less. He's definitely falling out of favor more and more with the coaching staff. And maybe one day we'll hear the story of why. I know his holding calls and stuff like that last year were definitely an issue. Obviously, he lost some snaps because of the fact that Darren Waller was there last year, at least for the half season. Waller was healthy. And now he's got Theo Johnson. It's like they keep on trying to replace him. Something's going on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, last year, you can't blame the Giants for picking up Waller. Like,
No.
Like, we get the idea of why it happened because we needed a solid one. While, Waller would have gave us like a solid one in the tight end position coming from, a team like we talked about with Dable was before and different teams, this and that, like Calf comes from. It looked nice. It looked nice on paper.
Yeah.
To have him put it there. But what you also did, you probably gave a bad taste in Belly's mouth his sophomore year, who fans and coaches had high praise for him his freshman year.
Yep.
And then you go out and you get the best guy in that position in free agency to which you probably felt like replace him.
Tight end after working your butt off. Yeah. He's a bad taste.
Yeah. So maybe that could have been something.
Yeah. No, it definitely could have been. That's for damn sure. So like I said, I'd like to see him more. I thought he didn't have the penalty issues and all he had, the prior year, because that was definitely an issue he had there overall. And the interesting thing he was targeted 14 times, guys. So literally every time he was targeted this year was a catch. He's a solid player, 57.2 PFF grade on the year. Like I said, I just think for some reason he's fallen out of favor with the coaching staff. And I'd love to know why. Would absolutely love to know why. But I have no way of knowing why and probably never will.
Probably not.
So maybe Bellinger will tell us the story one day if he gets cut or
he's going to go to a podcast. He's going to go to Joe Diaz's podcast and tell everyone.
Come to our podcast, Billy. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. You can
open up and be goofy with us too.
You can do it. Once you're not a Giant, then the Giants will let you do whatever they want because they can't stop you. All righty, guys. We got two more guys to talk about here on the tight end position. Then we'll get your comments, then head on out for the night here. So next up, we have a tight end that we thought might play a decent role this year, and I think it's safe to say he did. And that's Chris Manhertz, who is strictly a blocking tight end. But I can't sit there and say he was strictly a blocking tight end this year. I feel like He didn't get a lot of catches, but he definitely got some timely catches. Only 3 catches on the year, but 30 yards, 1 touchdown, 19 yards a yak. And I felt like all 3 of those catches were like crunch time, like third down, touchdown kind of scenarios. Because I felt like every time he got it, it was like, okay, that's a good play by Manhurts. And you kind of seem shocked because he's not a good catching tight end. He's not.
Yeah.
He's definitely a modern version of Howard Cross. That's what he is. He's a blocking tail, like a third tackle out there. 6 offensive linemen, just happens to catch the ball every so often. But yeah, like I said, good first season with us, I thought. Got exactly what we thought out of him that we would, because this is what he is. He's a blocking tight end. And we needed blocking. And he helped a lot. Imagine how much worse the offensive line would have been without guys like him and Bellinger on the sides of the tackles there, because they were both needed. 17 games, 3 catches, 30 yards, like I said. So again, much more of a blocking tight end, but that's what he's been for years and years. 69.3 PFF grade, guys. And he's going to be a free agent again. I would bring him back in a heartbeat to be a blocking tight end. I actually would leave the tight end room alone as it is. Bring Theo, bring Daniel Bellinger back, and bring Chris Manhurts back.
Yeah.
I'd be perfectly fine with that. And I don't think anybody would complain about that. Though some people like to complain no matter what, but I don't see what you could complain about with that one there. We got one more tight end to talk about here, guys. And
me, I've been doing my squats.
Actually, I just got finished doing a hamstring and quads thing, so maybe it is me.
It's actually glutes.
Glutes, whatever it is. Listen, I don't speak Latin very well. Salve. If anybody knows that, by the way.
Gluteus maximus.
Anyway, Greg Dulcich, we got to talk about him here. We picked him up very late in the season. He barely made the cut here to talk about. 5 games, 27 offensive snaps, 20 special team snaps, not a single stat. No tackles, no catches, no rushes. With Denver earlier in the year, though, he did also have 4 games, 3 starts, 5 catches for 28 yards. And I have no problem bringing him back as a camp body and see if he proves people wrong compared to what he is. I mean, he was a decent, player in college. He was a guy that I definitely expected better of him. Third round draft pick back in 22. So we're talking the same year as Bellinger there. And the Broncos gave him chances. It's not like they didn't give him a chance to play. His first, 2 seasons there, he was in, 12 games, 7 starts. He just didn't do enough after that first year, because his first year was good. Kind of similar stats we talked about with Theo Johnson. 10 games, 411 yards, reception wise, and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, just for whatever reason, just couldn't quite put it together after that. Only two catches for 1 yard. 3 catches for 25 yards all of last year.
It's a good year.
Again, 5 for 28 this year. So something happened. And nothing wrong with bringing him into camp again, see if you can figure out what happened, see if you can fix it. And if you can't, you cut him. You got 3. If you keep Manhurts, you got 3 already. You don't need a 4th one. It's a luxury thing. Everyone loves luxury Adams. He's the Gucci of tight ends.
Ooh. I was in my hand today. I saw Gucci.
Oh, there you go. How is Gucci? What corner is she working now?
Oh, she's over by Central Park.
Okay.
Lower East Side.
Let's get into the comments here for you guys before we go for the night. Let's see here. So we got John starts us off with, now that Belichick back in play, 5 of these guys get him in hella well. And I got to assume that John's talking about the fact that there was a loophole or something in Belichick's contract where he gets an out with North Carolina before even coaching a single game. But I don't think he's taking that out. I think he's going to go ahead and stay put. I think there was one job probably he was interested in, and he probably put that just in case. And either that's not happening, or because you don't hear any buzz about it whatsoever. So I think we're good. I think he's staying where he's at, John. Deb said,
because he wants to become a Giant.
Said no intentions of returning to the NFL. Exactly. He's not going. And then he says, Deb, nope, today Brady talked about getting him since they fired Pierce. Other teams also inquiring also. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. I don't think so. Deb says, I heard that John and Belichick's response was he has no plan. Oh, she said, I heard that John and Belichick's response was he had no plans to return to the NFL. Exactly. He's not coming back. G242 Marshall, salute. Great live NYG for life. Hit that like. Appreciate it, man. Yes, guys. If you,
man, thanks.
Thumbs up if you're on YouTube because it really does help as far as spreading that out there. So, John says Deb will see money talks, and then says heard Kafka has some interviews. Yeah, Kafka's got a couple interviews lined up. I know the Bears and the Saints have called him in for interviews. I'm not sure if anybody else has yet. I haven't been watching too closely on that part of it there because quite frankly, until he gets to the second round of interviews, I couldn't care less. Every year he gets tons of interviews. So, you know.
Was here else in the New York market had got an interview? Not to the Giants, but to the Jets.
We're talking Rex Ryan?
Oh, I'm talking about Rex Ryan.
I knew. We're good. That man looks.
That
man needs to do plastic surgeons, all I know.
I didn't say I want him for a Giants job. I just thought it was hysterical that they're going to
telling you right now, it's to save face because he said it publicly so much that Woody Johnson's going to do it as a favor. That's it.
Yeah.
He's not going there. He's not going. Dorothy says, could have had Cam Akers for $2 million. He was healthy for every game and had 4.3 yards per carry when he played. Yeah, probably would have been a better fit than Singletary. But again, at the time, Singletary wasn't a bad pickup. He knew the offense because he knew Dable from his time in Buffalo. I'm not knocking the play. I'm just going to, knock it going forward if we keep him or if he continues a significant role. It just didn't work. John says, now that we have another 8 months to see him screw up again, not until that offensive line is fixed, we're doomed. It just got to get healthy.
Yeah.
Healthy. We got to have backups, like especially a tackle position for when Andrew Thomas gets hurt. Because that's what happens every time. Andrew Thomas gets hurt and we're done.
It changes our whole line. Like, listen, we've talked about it before. Like, Andrew Thomas is like one of the best at what he does. Like, he's the best. Like, one of the best in the NFL. Like, you can't take that away from the guy. And you take away a talent like that, like,
you can't take that away from him.
Yeah, no.
No.
Oh no! But you take that away from like a bunch of average guys, and we literally became like an average run of the mill offensive line.
Yep.
Is it a top 10? No, but know what it is? Not a bottom 3.
Yep.
So you keep Thomas in there for the next year, the following year. Like it's a different look to the offensive line, especially when you get some solid backup players.
Look where it ended up at the end of the year. We had literally not a single person at the position they started at the beginning of the year. 4 guys were out, and 1 guy had to move into center. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Dorothy says, why did Turbo Miller get no run? It makes no sense. What was Gray bringing to the table that Miller couldn't bring? Draft status.
The gravy. He makes a really good sauteed gravy.
It's all either that or he's making the freshest muffins in the morning for breakfast.
Oh yeah,
like
I made the muffin, guys.
Like something. Like I said, there's something going on. It's got to be trying to validate the pick. And I'm sorry, it's just a bad pick, and you move on. I have more respect for a GM that moves on from a bad pick than one that keeps trying to shove them down our throats. Just saying.
Yeah.
So. John says, it's just sad. I'm 55, almost 56 in March, and I'm just tired of this. Not even competitive in years. All we do is lose or ruin players, and lose players, it's beyond frustrating. Hells yeah. It's beyond frustrating. Like I said, you could literally go back to the 70s, and as much as we talk about the great history of the New York Giants, if you go back to 70s and onward, we had 2 good stretches, and the rest of it were poop.
Pretty much.
The honest truth matters. The late 80s and the mid zeros, that's it. The 07s to 012 seasons and the 85 to 90, those are our 2 good stretches. That's it. The rest of it were poop.
Poopity poop poop poop.
Sal says, gentlemen, should we run it back with Locke and hope to draft Manning next year? No. I always hate that I hear that plan. I really do. Like, I'm not going to hope that Arch comes out next year and we luck out and get a second Manning. First off, there's already been 2 great Manning quarterbacks. 3 if you want to include Archie, who was, Maul, I heard, much better than what his record and all shows. Again, I wasn't around when he played, so I don't want to.
Yeah,
much wasn't there for. But what's the chances of a 4th Manning quarterback being decent? Like, I just feel like people are like, oh, automatically because he's a Manning. So
3rd generation.
That means nothing. Look at Kanye's daughter trying to sing The Lion King. I'm just saying. Like, doesn't always work out genetically that way. Like,
she did a great job.
Yeah, great job. Not to make fun of a kid. Make fun of the parents who are putting her up there. I feel bad for her. But again, I don't like the idea of just wasting a year because we're hoping we might get Manning next year. First off, I got to hope we're not in this boat again. We're so crappy that we're going to get that kind of pick again. Yeah. And he also says, also with Barkley, if he was still with the Giants, he would definitely not have put in the same stats. 100%. We've said it multiple times. 100% you're correct there.
We said that when he went to the Eagles.
Oh, yeah. Dorothy says, can we name one player that has developed to a better player under our coaching staff minus our defensive line and CB coach? Yeah, so you're talking no Andre Patterson or Jerome Henderson, just to give the 2 guys credit. Credit's due at that point. I would say one guy that comes to mind off the top of my head, we just talked about him leaving, is Isaiah Hodgins. He did have his best time with the Giants.
But that's off the wagon.
You're wrong with the point you're trying to make that we have trouble developing players. Don't get me wrong. You're right. It's just since you asked it, that's the name I'm going to give you off the top of my head.
I mean, it's not much improvement. I guess you could say Evan Neal improved when he went inside.
Yeah, no, he hasn't improved. He was a top flight prospect that became poop.
No, he was just poop.
Just saying.
When we got there. So
he was a top flight prospect.
And he was top flight poop.
Exactly.
And now he's just regular poop.
Poop. Anyway, Rocky
says,
this draft is stacked with RBs. We can get a steal in like the 4th or 5th to pair with Tracy. Yes, 100%. What I want is a north-south runner. I want a little thunder and lightning all over again. I want a north-south runner to go with him. Let him be the outside guy, the catch guy. Again, I know we talked about before his PFF catching wise wasn't the best there, but he's a former receiver. He can get it together with a good quarterback and a good scheme. So Dorothy says, who is this Daniel Jones you speak of? I don't know.
Some guy. He's a backup.
Let's see here. Dorothy says Xavier Ortiz in the 3rd or Jalen Noel in the 4th to pair with Neighbors would be wonderful. You know, we haven't really done too much on the receivers yet, so we'll I don't want to say too much on that. I'll take your word at it for right now. We haven't deep dived into the receivers yet. We'll definitely do that once the playoffs are over. So, expect that one coming. And then Dorothy says, speaking of Odell, do you guys think the summer he lived with Drake, OBJ moved to tight end, or did he stay as a slot receiver? Well, I'm not touching that one.
Yeah.
Jay Sports Cards, who do you want at QB? I want Cam Ward and a bridge. I want a bridge, and then I want whoever they think is the best. And it's not that I have faith in Dable and Shane to make that decision 100%, though. Dable was high in Jaden Daniels, which I was as well. And I know you were as well. So, we were on the same with Dable on that one there. And Joe Shane's kid told me to go get Daniels as well. So I'm going to assume they would have made the right call if they could have and gotten Jaden Daniels. But they made so many mistakes, it's hard for me to have faith in them. But I can't be in the room for the interviews. I can't quiz them. I can't ask them questions. So I have to go based on what I see tape-wise. And what I see tape-wise is I see pros and cons for both these 2 guys. But I feel like Cam Ward seems the safer one to me, and he's a slight edge for me right now. But things can change as we do deep dives into these guys. I did preliminary tapes, watched a few hours of tape for each at that point there. But I before this playoffs are up, I'll probably have watched every single game, every single offensive snap for both those guys this year. And I'll make a call then from there. So
Fair.
And it says Bellinger has went downhill, Saddle. Yes, he did. but I do think that it's also an issue with him and the staff. My gut feeling tells me that he's falling out of grace in a weird way. And Burlow says, need more belly.
Need more belly.
I got plenty of belly here. Don't you worry.
Shuffle.
Dorothy says, we need to target Oscar Delp, tight end from Georgia, in the latter round. We need a big, talented player that we can make regress for 4 years until he goes to the team and blossoms. Honestly, I think we're good at tight end. I really do. That's one of the least of my concerns is tight end right now.
Yeah.
You got Theo Johnson. You got Bellinger to the year. If you re-sign Manhurts, you can bring it back as your blocking tight end. And the room is perfectly fine. Bring Dulcich back or bring somebody else back to be another camp body at that point and see if they happen to be able to beat somebody out. But otherwise, I'm fine with the tight end room. Craig says, no lock. Hell no.
Yeah.
Then says, sign Justin Fields, draft Mason Graham or Travis Hunter, sign cornerback, draft another O-line, then back in business. I hope it's that easy, Greg. I love your optimism. It's like, do these 10 moves and we're fine.
That's all I need.
We'll see.
And you'll save $25 million a year.
I'm with you on a lot. I like the Justin Fields option if he's available. I like Mason Graham. I think Travis Hunter is good, but I do think he's overhyped. I like Will Johnson as well. So, you got to do your full deep dives and do your interviews and see who you think is the best player and go from there. You kind of have to trust the Giants to a certain degree. Though every so often we'll say it ourselves, they made bonehead moves. We didn't like Deontay Banks. We didn't like that pick at all. You and I were both like, wait a minute, hold on. We had a second round grade in this kid and you just took him mid first. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Like I said, sometimes they just know stuff we don't know. John says, actually, if you look at the Giants scores, if we still had Saquon, I think we would have won 3 or 4 games more. Yes, probably, to be honest with you. But
so we'll be fighting for that stat.
Yeah, we wouldn't have the third pick in the draft then. So, because I still think Shedeur Sanders is coming here, guys. I'm telling you guys right now. I will keep beating that drum nonstop. Like that's where I feel like that's what's got. We got Shedeur Sanders wanting to come here. It's just something. It's my gut feeling, and it's usually right. Dorothy says Arch broke Peyton's records for TDs and Eli's records for yards at Newman. Not saying we should wait on him, but he'll probably be pretty amazing. Newman. We'll see. Like I said, I'm not one on the guy who hypes quarterbacks up and players up for years. I wait till they're ready to come out and then take a look at them then, pretty much. Chris says Hyatt needs to improve his route running. He's a one-trick pony. Yep, exactly what we said. It says coming out, Burrow was very accurate. Sanders has the same quality. Oh, I have no problem with his accuracy. His accuracy is on point. His anticipation and throwing is on point. His ability to stay calm in a bad pocket on point. No issues there whatsoever. I do have concerns with him deep ball, and I have concerns with him mentality-wise. And I think that nobody's talking about the fact that literally he's been with Daddy his whole life. Daddy was his coordinator. Deion became his coach in college at both schools. This would be his first time in his life with the court cut.
Yep, especially like if his dad goes somewhere else.
Yeah. So, or stays in Colorado, which was halfway around the country at that point there. So, like I said, I don't have the faith in there, and it's not me trying to talk negative about the man. But listen, we all were young at one point and stupid, and we all got our first taste of freedom. We all did stupid things.
Oh my God, so much.
So it's just something that scares me a little bit there. Let's see here. Greg Turdhall's anticipation of throwing, he holds onto the ball way too long. No, what I mean by that is not anticipating when to throw. What I mean by that is he leads the receivers. If you look at there was a lot of slant routes thrown around at Colorado, and he was very good at putting the ball where the receiver was going to be, not where the receiver is. One of the big complaints we had, especially the first half of the year when Daniel Jones was the quarterback, is the receivers had to come back for the ball when you want them to be able to catch in stride. So that's what I mean by that. Like I said, not that I'm saying him holding on the ball or anything like that. That's a whole separate thing. I'm saying just him being able to throw it in stride and getting the receiver to catch it in a spot where he can keep running and get those yak yards. So, all righty, guys. Well, that's going to call it a night for us here. We're an hour and 45 minutes in. Appreciate you guys for watching, for listening, for supporting the show. Again, if you haven't already, hit the like, hit that subscribe button, guys. Again, we're on the off season now, so we're down to Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, and of course, Rob's favorite,
Where's LinkedIn?
my LinkedIn profile. And of course, as always, we're available the next day at 5 o'clock in the morning there on all the audio podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Pandora, all the big ones there. So, like I said, guys, if you haven't already, hit the like, hit subscribe on all of those, audio, video, all of them at that point there. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, guys. Like I said, all that stuff really does help spread the word. And like I said, tell a friend, guys. We suck at marketing, point blank. We count on y'all to help us out there. Without y'all helping, we are pretty much just sitting here like two idiots talking to each other.
We're pretty good at it.
Yeah, exactly. So appreciate you guys for watching as always. And as always, Giant fans, no matter how bad they are, go G-Man!
Go G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.